All right, so meetup number 4, Elementor Fun with Forums and Pop-ups. Why don't we introduce each other? I can see everyone on the screen for now, so why don't we go with Lloyd? Do you want to introduce yourself? Get your mute. You're muted, Lloyd. There you
Hi, I'm Lloyd. Sitting in the Netherlands, so it's like 10 o'clock at night here in Holland. And yeah, I'm new to the forms section in Elementor.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used Elementor a couple of times. I haven't upgraded to 3.0 because I heard there's quite a lot of problems at the moment. So
Of course, yeah.
yeah, but I heard there's a lot of good developments in it. So I'm looking forward to installing that in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, should be great once they get all up to
Yep.
like that. Stacy, you want to introduce yourself to the group here? You got to unmute.
Hi, I'm Stacy. I'm living in Colorado, jumping in on a meeting where I used to live. I'm relatively new to Elementor. I've been using Beaver Builder for probably about 3 years now. Learning Elementor very quickly, so it's kind of exciting, and I love the fact that we're online. And I don't have to leave my house right now to go to a meeting. So thank you. Thanks, Greg, for putting this on.
No problem. Nell, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I have been using Elementor for a couple years. I'm about an hour north of Silicon Valley area. And I came from other lesser known page builders. You know, Elementor's answered a lot of the issues and solved a lot of things that the other one didn't do.
Which is the other one?
It was Oshine.
Oshine.
And the one before was an older version of Visual Composer.
Okay.
And that was when I left Visual Composer, you know, they were transitioning away from shortcodes, and then they kind of split. So there was like 2 different Visual Composers. And Oshine was already doing WYSIWYG stuff. But I don't know exactly who developed it and where it's coming out of. And they still continue to add new features, but the new features are happening too far between.
Very good. Sanjana, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm from Portland, Oregon. Yes, we have orange skies today, and it's smoky. It can smell it here right now by my house. So it's a little scary. But I have been doodling around in Elementor since last year and trying to set up my own photography website. Gave myself a project to do, and it's live. It's working, I think. Still kind of need to finesse certain things on the phone. I know we had a really good class here on that, and I need to go back and fix certain things. It's not working. Yeah, so this is something new for me. I'm really enjoying it, Elementor. I'm so glad the classes are on. So thank you.
Hey, Mark, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm up in Sonoma County, a little north of everybody, and I've been developing websites since the mid-90s, working with WordPress for a long time, but I'm pretty new to Elementor, so I've been trying to pick it up as fast as possible over the last couple of months, and I'm in the middle of converting a website for one of my clients over from an old Dreamweaver site into Elementor, so that's what I'm in the middle of now.
So you're basically rebuilding it then?
Yeah, pretty much rebuilding it, yeah.
Good. Barbette?
Hi, everybody. I'm Barbette Watts. I'm from currently living in Dallas, former resident of the Bay Area, and I just wish everybody out there to be safe during these times. I've been working with Elementor for, I guess, since November. I like it, very comfortable with it. And so I'm just basically learning how to build websites and maybe one day make it into it. Well, a little iffy today, but no, it's going to happen. It's going to be a business. I don't want to go back to work. So anyway, that's me. I just want to make this full time because it's really something I enjoy. I think it's a really awesome product. Yeah.
Cool. Bob?
Hello, everybody. Name is Bob Galino. I'm just outside San Jose, just to the west. And I am not necessarily totally focused on web design, but it's a big part of what I do in the marketing services I do for my clients. So just always like to keep up on what some of the newer trends are and what are the best tools to use and so forth. So that's why I'm here, just to learn a little bit more and get a little bit better.
Welcome. Oscar, you want to go?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oscar Henao with Centrix Corporation. I am out of Miami right now, actually a little bit north of Miami in the Sunshine State. And I've been in the business, on the website business development for a very long time. My first website was up in 1995. I had hair when I started doing this. It was a long time ago, down in Colombia. And I've been using Elementor for over 2 years so far. And just learning every day. Every day are new things to discover.
Got to keep up with them. Thanks. Marianne, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Marion Murphy. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, or that's where I currently am. And I'm fairly new to Elementor. I have a website that's up called Grow Your Own Meal, which is my nonprofit, to which I want to add a blog component. And so I'm here to learn a lot more because originally when I made that site a year ago, I did it together with a developer and he did a lot of the work and I just did the design piece. So now I'm trying to learn the actual mechanics of it. And I am an IT person, so I feel comfortable, but there's a lot I don't know. And that's why I'm here. And I have 2 other sites, one of which I'm very interested in the photography, the person who's doing the photography solution, because I'd like to know more about displaying photos using Elementor with their plugin or their whatever they have that's part of their process.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
that's me.
thank you. Darlene?
Okay. Yes, I'm here. And I'll get my video on here in just a second.
Okay.
So I'm in San Jose, right downtown. They're chopping up trees out on my street, so it's kind of maybe noisy in the background. I'm trying to remember to keep my mute on. And I have been retired for like 8 years or 9 years, a long time. So off and on, I've done WordPress and blog. And in this last year, I've been working with Elementor. I have no IT background, but I'm kind of like a wannabe nerd. So I tend to try to figure it out. And I've had people, help me and paid tutors and, so I still have this drive to figure it out. And I have to say with Elementor, I don't feel as intuitive as I'd like it to be. So I'm feeling a little bit frustrated. When I started with WordPress, I found that very intuitive and did the blogging with WordPress. That was easy. Elementor has not been that easy. So
Okay.
I'm a little bummed out right about now about it, but otherwise it's interesting.
Yeah, it becomes more intuitive as you work with it and realize a lot of the settings are the same for different elements and that sort of thing. Nora, you're last. You want to go?
Hi, I'm Nora from Eugene, Oregon. I'm retired IT and doing some support work for some nonprofit websites. I'm interested in moving from Beaver Builder to Elementor.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Everyone see that okay? Can you see my purple and blue screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you
Yes.
recording this, Greg?
Yes, I am.
Yes, it is.
Fantastic,
So,
because
I'll
I'm
send,
sure you're going to show us things I won't remember.
I'll
Your
send a
tabs are showing
link to you.
across the top.
Pardon?
So I'm often wondering, your tabs are showing across the top. So I often wonder when people are sharing why their tabs still show all across the screen.
That's
You
because
know
I
what I
shared
mean?
the screen instead of the browser.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Sometimes there's information you don't want people to see your tabs, and that's I'm
Yeah.
often curious about that.
there's nothing confidential up there.
I know, right? But I'm just curious.
Yeah, later on I want to drag in actual email that's sent, so I want to have the screen available. All right, let's get
So
started.
Greg, are you going to show us what's in your fun folder?
Fun folder. What's in there?
Mhm.
Hey, there you go.
There you go. Nothing too exciting. All right, so contact forms. Let's get started with that. First of all, the forms are only available with the Pro version. Well worth having the Pro version. So
Can I ask a question right at this moment, Greg?
absolutely.
I have the Elementor Pro, but I noticed that in my existing website that I spoke about, Grow Your Own Meal,
Mm-hmm.
it shows up both of them, Elementor and Elementor Pro. And am I supposed to
Yeah, you need
eliminate
both.
Elementor?
No, let me go to my plugin. So yeah, you're going to have Elementor, the free version, right here. Then when you
Yeah.
add Elementor Pro, it adds the Pro as a separate plugin with all the good that come with Elementor Pro. So yeah, you will have both of them. And you can't have the
So
Pro
you don't
without
you shouldn't deactivate one.
No, you have to have the Elementor to get the Pro.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's quite normal. So let's
Just want to
create.
make sure.
Yeah, let's create a new page. I already have one called Forums. Let's trash that one and restart. And we'll edit with Elementor. And let's get as simple as possible. We'll grab the form component from the Pro category here, drop that down, and go ahead and publish that and exit. Here we have our first form. Very simple. Let's go ahead and fill out some information. Hit send. And hopefully I get that in my email. Let me go check. All right, so here's what we got. Had my name, email, and the message. And there's this other stuff that tags along as well. We'll show how to turn that off and choose which ones we want to display, if any. Let's go back into Elementor. And let's look at a few things about the form. First of all, the form field panel here shows the forms we have selected. So we have name, email, message. If we look at the first one, name, first thing we can tell is that it's a type text. There's a lot of different types of items we can have here. We'll look at those briefly in a minute. We have a label, which is above the field. We have a placeholder, which we can put enter here. That actually shows up in the field itself. If we look at that, as soon as you start typing, it overwrites that. You've probably seen that before. So that's the placeholder in the text. You can choose whether it's required or not. Down below here, there's a required mark that's hidden right now. So if we turn that on, you can see now the asterisk next to them showing that they are required. You can turn labels off. and just show the placeholders. The only problem with that is you don't see the required marks anymore. So we should have another way around that.
Greg?
Yeah.
Just add, that's very common when you have a very simple form that just wants your name and email address for like generating mailing lists and so forth. So the idea is to get something small and quick up there that doesn't take up a lot of space on the screen.
Right.
So that's the advantage of using that.
Keep it compact.
Exactly.
So yeah, if I turn labels off, and I try to submit, I do get a message saying that it is required. So email, it has a type email field. So it's expecting something at something dot something. So it masks these items. And again, we have the same information, the label, the placeholder, whether it's required or not. I'm going to turn these off for simplicity. Then we have the message, which is a text area. Same information down below. Let's change this one to first name, and we'll add another field for the last name, first name. Turn the labels back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little button here, which will duplicate this, and we'll add a last name down below. Be more specific here. Last name. First name. Now we can also control the width, so maybe we want first and last name on the same line. So what we can do is select the first name, choose the column width. We can choose 50%. Go down and choose the last name, choose 50% on that. What that does, that'll pull it up as two separate columns. Of course, we have different values here, so you could have 5 at 20% or 3 at 33%, or however you want to lay out your form. So let's add another field here. Let's look at some of the types we have available. We did the text, email, text here. You can also do a URL, which would mask it as being a URL for that field. Telephone number, radio buttons. Radio buttons, you put your values down below in the options box on separate lines. You can also do an inline list, so they're on the same row. And again, these can be required. All these fields, any field can be required or not required. The select is a drop-down. So we have those same items, except now they're in a drop-down. You can also have multiple select. So if you have that turned on, looks like I spelled 4 wrong. Multiple select. So now if you hold your control or command on Apple, you can select like so, or select the first one, hold the shift key, and grab all of them. That's the multiple selection. We have checkboxes. And again, these can be in line or separate lines. Acceptance. This is just an acceptance box. I'll put some text in here. So yeah, you have to, normally you'd have to check this field to continue. These can be to view different documents or accept a license or whatever. You do need to make it required for it to work properly. If you don't have it required, you can still not check this and still submit the field. So it does have to be required as well. You can do numbers. We have dates. The date field. We'll bring up the date picker. And they also have an option here for HTML5 dates. And I'm not too sure what this is, but I think it brings in the date field as part of the browser to use instead. So I don't think you'd be able to style this one very easily as you would with the other one. Time, same as date. File upload. Here we could go choose a file. And that would be attached to the email. Password field. We also have an HTML field, which you can put whatever you want in it.
So is that HTML field for static text? It's not user entry or user input, correct?
Yeah, it's just static text. And you could put images, whatever you want, as long as it's all HTML, you can drop that in there. We also have a hidden field if you want to have values that pass the form to some other process at some point. We also have step, which is a newer feature they added. With step, you can have multiple pages of forms. So I can actually drag this up after last name, and I should only show the first name and last name. And it requires to go next to go to the next couple fields. Let's try that out. Do preview changes. Message, so you can either send, you can go previous, like so. So you can have as many steps as you want. You can change these circles to squares or some customization there. We'll look at that in a minute. We also have reCAPTCHA and reCAPTCHA version 3. This is from Google, their reCAPTCHA. I'm sure you've seen this. Click here to show you're not a robot, or choose all the pictures that have buses in, that sort of thing. To use that, you need to go to, back out to Elementor. Elementor settings. And integration. So here's where you put in your site key and your secret key for your Google reCAPTCHA, whether it's version 2 or version 3.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Your codes just did flash on the screen. If this is recorded, you might want to blur out those numbers before you post it anywhere.
Oh, well, thank you. There's also other API information you put in for Facebook, MailChimp, Drip, ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, some things I never heard of, but yeah, they have a lot of different options. And they add these as things come up.
And what do those things do? I mean, I know what the CAPTCHA is, but.
Well, MailChimp, for instance, if you have a MailChimp set up,
yeah.
If you had your key, let's go back and.
Okay. I definitely.
Actually, I'll get to that in a minute. That's part. That's
okay.
A little bit, so we'll cover that.
Okay.
So, and also Honeypot, which what Honeypot does is it puts an invisible field on your form, which the spiders or robots will fill out thinking it's a real field. But if it's filled out, the form will not be submitted. So it's a simple way to add a CAPTCHA to your form without showing any, click here if you're not a robot type thing. Any questions?
Yes. Can you do conditional logic?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Back to gravity forms then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Maybe version 4. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, creating the layout seems really more intuitive in this, perhaps in gravity forms, but I think there's a lot of power the back end in Gravity Forms.
Yeah, I think the power comes into getting something up quick, and it does have a lot of capabilities, and the styling's built into Elementor. So you can do quite a bit with your forms. With Gravity Forms, it's a little tough to style them sometimes.
Agreed. Yeah, that can be a little bit of a pain with Gravity Forms sometimes.
And where do you?
Just a little note.
Mm-hmm.
Do me a favor. Drag the reCAPTCHA between the first name and last name.
Drag what?
The reCAPTCHA field between the first and last name. No, put it between
first and last name. Okay.
Yeah. And despite it is an invisible field, it's going to create an extra line. So to make, and I discussed that with Elementor. So if you want to avoid that, you've got to put the reCAPTCHA at the very top of the form.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted, now pull it up to the top. It goes back to normal.
Good point. Yeah. Now some of the captchas will show the captcha information, but captcha 3 will be invisible. So yeah, need to get rid of that space without using CSS.
I reported that about a year ago, and nothing has happened.
Nothing yet?
No, not yet.
Maybe I'll report as well. Get a few people behind. So the buttons, let me go back. Let's do a refresh here. So form fields, okay, buttons. You have control of different size buttons. Placement of the buttons. Similar to the buttons anywhere else in Elementor. You can change the text for the next and previous buttons on multi-step forms, where you can change the message on just the submit button. You can also, let me go back to, let me get the, come on. Get this step one out of here. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't respond right away. So I usually do an update and do a refresh. Okay, now we're back to normal. Select the form and buttons. So yeah, you can also put a SVG logo on your button, or select from the icon from Font Awesome, or one of these. We'll just grab a angry face here. Icon spacing. Typical with everything else in Elementor as far as buttons.
Hey, Greg, what is that little symbol in the first name field there? The little box to the right?
That's for columns. If you want to select the column, you click on that. If you want to duplicate the column.
On the far right of the box, on the same level as where it says enter first name here?
Oh, this up here?
Yeah, that.
That's my form filling add-on to Windows. Yeah, you
okay, never mind.
You normally see that. It's unique to my browser and my computer. So the power comes into where you do actions. Right now, the only action when I hit submit or send is it's going to send an email. And that information's down here. My email address, the subject line of the email. It's going to include all fields, like I showed here, a name, address, name, email, and message. The only fields I had at that point. The from email, from name, reply to. If you want to CC someone or BC someone, you can do that here. Also, I mentioned about this date, time, page, user agent. This comes down here in the metadata. So if I didn't want that, we could turn all this off. Just uncheck all these items, and then it won't show on the the form anymore. It's okay if it's going to you, but if it's going to the user as a notification, you wouldn't want that information on there.
So for an FYI, from the from emails bucket, I always make that reply or no reply at the domain.com. No, the from email.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Unless you want
So-
to reply to it, right?
Right.
So let's add another action. Let's add another, we have all these different,
Excuse me, Greg.
yeah.
What was that tip again? Please?
What was what?
The tip that was just given on regarding the email address.
Tip.
Oh, that was to make,
Go ahead, Stacy.
that was to make the return address no reply at the domain.com.
That way if someone replies, it won't really go anywhere. Will that get kicked back to you? I'm not sure.
No, in fact, the reason I do that is because there's an issue with sending emails out. Like a lot of people use their Gmail account,
Mhm.
and so if you have an email address for the domain that you're on, use that email address. But if you don't, just use a no reply at gmail.com. So it will go through then. It won't get stuck in the Gmail loop or somewhere else.
Like so, okay.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have
I thought it was in regards of the reply to, which you
You
can,
don't-
you can select reply to field address. I mean to email field.
Yeah, I guess I haven't been using it because emails haven't been going through. So once I learned to put in the no reply at gmail.com or at the domain.com, reply at domain.com, then my emails have been going through. So
The issue, I've run into this before. The issue is that, I can turn my video on for this part, but the issue is that if the email is using a different domain than the website, that
Right.
gets flagged. So you need to be using not just any domain, but the domain of the website. So if your
Yes.
domain is google.com, then you can send something from google.com, for example.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
issue with the reply to should be, instead of that, click on it. It's going to be the email field. So the reply goes to the person who sent the email.
yeah, so whatever,
Otherwise, it's going to end up somewhere else.
so whatever's in this email field will be the,
Right. So
The
that's
reply.
useful if you want to send the person a confirmation message. Say, thanks for registering, blah, 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 blah. That kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
No, not necessarily a confirmation message. I mean, if the person is making a question, if the person is making a question, you just hit reply, and you know that that email field that he put is the one that is going to go in the to field of the reply.
mhm.
See, so
Okay, we're gonna add another action. They have another email too, which you can set up to actually send to someone
the
else.
confirmation.
And it adds another drop down here for email too. So what you can do is instead of going to me, I can have it go to the person that filled out the form. So it can go to me and also be a notification back to the person filling out the form. So if I go back up here to form fields and go to email, and I go to advanced, I can copy this shortcode and put that shortcode in here, which is the email field. Similar to what we just showed you, but it doesn't have a drop down for it. It probably should, but this way, whatever's in this field this form will be sent to them. You could say, got your email, blah, blah, blah. We'll get back to you soon. You don't want to show them the fields. Something like that. So both you'll get the email and the person filling out the form will get the email. And again, you may want to change some of this information. You can add others here. We can do a redirect. So under redirect, you could put in a particular URL. So once the form's submitted, it's going to send you an email. It's going to send the person filling it out email, and it's going to redirect to a page, which could be like a thank you page or something like that. Other options are a webhook. Webhooks could be a lot of different things. There's I don't know if you've heard of Zapier, but they have APIs for different applications that can be used, and you would use a redirect. I'm sorry, you'd use a webhook to send information to Zapier or MailChimp or whoever API you want to work with. They also have Drip. If you've not heard of Drip, but it's a marketing type service where they'll send out emails like next week and the following week with different emails, that sort of thing. Active Campaign, a lot of different things you can use. Another one is Popup. We'll look at this later. With Popup, you can choose whether to open a pop-up or close a pop-up. If we had this form in a pop-up, when we send it, we would want to close that pop-up when the message is sent. So we'll look at that. Let's get rid of all these except the email. All right, let's switch gears here and look at do an update here. And let's look at some pop-ups. Has anyone used the pop-ups before in Elementor? Okay. So what we do is we go to templates. We'll go into pop-ups. We're going to create our first pop-up. Add new pop-up. The type of template is a pop-up. And we're going to call it form. And we'll create that form. So they give you, with the Pro account, you get access to a lot of pre-made pop-ups of different types. Let's just select one real quick just to see what it looks like. So we'll go ahead and preview this one. Looks good. We'll insert it. And it's going to look like this when it pops up. We're going to publish this. And with pop-ups, you have conditions. So we can add a condition where this pop-up will only work singular and will only work on, where's the home page, front page. We have triggers, various triggers. You can do it on page load. So if I go to, we'll do that as an example. So on page load after say 4 seconds, it'll pop up. Go ahead and save and close that. And let's go to the front page here. Then we'll wait 4 seconds. And there we go. To get back to conditions, you can go to the update and hit the up arrow. Go to display conditions. We'll go back to triggers. So page load is one of the options you can have for a trigger. You can also have on scroll. So if it scrolls down, say 50 pixels, it'll pop up. Let's save and try that one real quick. As we scroll down, pops up. Go back to triggers again. I'm not going to do all these, but I'll just walk through them. Scroll to element. Let's try this one just as an example too. We'll make an element called .map. And we'll go into our home page, edit with Elementor, Let's put a map down below here. Grab Google Maps. Drop that in. Silicon Valley, California, here we go. Do an update on that. Go back to the front end. Oh, forgot one thing. I need to give it a class name that we used for the pop-up. So we'll select the map. Under advanced settings, we'll give it a class name of map. Update. And back to the front end again. Now if we scroll map into view, it should pop up. There we go. So there's the
Why
top
did you
map.
give it a, I'm sorry, why did you give it a class name if you didn't do any CSS for it?
I gave it a class name because back in here, under the pop-up, under triggers, I
Oh,
said
you have to,
scroll to
okay.
map. So this could be a class or an element.
Gotcha, okay.
Also, click
It looks like looks like the class name had a dot in front of it, whereas it didn't have a dot in front of it when you assigned it.
Yeah, that's because, let me go back here. Choose the map, advanced. So we're under classes. If I did an ID, it would be up here. So map 2, I'm using the class ID instead of the class itself. Update. Go back. This way you need to do pound map 2 because you're targeting that instead. That make sense?
Yeah, the class and the ID doesn't need the dot, but the CSS name, the selector needs the dot or the pound.
So whatever, whether you use the class ID, I'm sorry, the ID or a class, it'll work on either one of those. In this field, you put either the dot or the hashtag. On click, that's clicking anywhere on the page. So if we go back, and I'll click 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter what I'm clicking, it'll bring it up.
Wow.
Another one's after so much inactivity. So if someone's sitting there not touching anything after, in this case, 30 seconds, it'll pop up, be a reminder of some sort. We also have on page exit intent. So as soon as you move away from that page, it'll come up. I notice it comes up on the page you go to and not before you leave the page. Let me do a refresh here. So to me, it seems like as soon as you want to click something else, it should come up before you leave, but it actually takes you to the new page first. Now it's not even popping up. Triggers, page exit.
Yeah, Greg?
Yeah.
I would just add too, from a user experience perspective, I tend to favor scroll and period of inactivity, because if people are clicking or entering something and then all of a sudden the pop-up, I find that extremely annoying to have to close the pop-up and then finish entering text or clicking on what I want to click and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
totally
try to
agree
keep
with
that
you.
in mind. Yeah.
They're just trying to cover all the bases with any possibility you might have for a trigger.
Understood, but I'm just saying from a user perspective, right?
Yeah, right. They also have advanced rules. So you can show after so many page views, so many sessions, so many X times. So a lot of different options. Also different devices. Maybe you don't want on the mobile or tablet, you just want desktop only. So you have that available as well. So let's go back to the dashboard. Pop-ups. Let's trash this one. And let's create another one. Give it the same name. This time we're going to create our own. Then we're just going to put a form in it. We'll drop the form in place here. And give a little space above it. So the form has this X to get out of it. I'll just leave those same fields. So the pop-ups settings are done in the bottom left corner under settings. You click this. This has to do with the form, the pop-up form. So you have different things. You can change the width, the height. It can be fit to full screen, custom. You can position it where you want, like so. Top, center, bottom, like so. The overlay, right now, everything around the pop-up is dark. That's because the overlay is turned on. You can turn that off if you want. The close button in the corner, you can turn that off if you want. Entrance animation, you can choose what happens when that form comes up. So for instance, on something here, fade in from the right, do fade out left. So now if we preview this, see if we'll show in the preview. Slides in, slides out. And there's all kinds of different animation you can do. Wobble, ta-da, jello, different things. So that's interesting. You can also change the duration of the animation, how long it takes to do that process. General settings, nothing too exciting there. Preview settings. You can choose where this form will work as a preview. I had some issues with that before, and I may have been doing something wrong, so we won't look at that.
Could I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
The information that the form collects, where can you see that? Or can you also send it to somebody else?
That information will be emailed to you with an Elementor. There is a plugin available. Called Form Vibes. It's in the repository. This works with Elementor, also works with Contact Form 7 and other items as well. So what it does is it saves information to the database within your WordPress. So here you can go in and have all your emails. I think you could probably, I haven't used this, just found out about it yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it has.
Is it like new or?
I don't think so. I just saw it in a video by this guy. So you have analytics and different things. I haven't, like again, haven't looked at it too close, but I think this will allow you probably, like Gravity Forms, where you can actually respond to an email directly from that page. I think it works similar to that.
And if it's a form where you're collecting information like a poll, would you rather use then a plugin that's available that does sort of all of that together?
Oh yeah, I think I would use something specific for polling.
And have you got one to recommend?
I don't. I haven't looked at that. With Form Vibes, you can also save it to a spreadsheet. So if you did have form information, you could bring it into a spreadsheet and manipulate it that way as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg, I use Zapier a lot of times to save to a Google Sheet. It works very well.
So there
A
you go.
Google Sheet, yeah?
So
And
yeah,
So
you can use Zapier with just about any form on the market right now.
is Zapier a plugin?
It's a website where you set up. It's like if this then that. You just have to go to the website, set up a couple of rules, and then get going. It takes 5 minutes. It's pretty easy.
Oh, cool.
so yeah, you could go in here to webhook and choose your URL to your Zapier account, and that would send that information over to Zapier to do like what Bob said. In theory.
In theory? And that's any form, or you also need to have that form vibes kind
No,
of?
this is with any
mediator?
form. You wouldn't need the form vibes to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, any form, you just assign whatever field you want to go in whatever row on the Google Sheet, for example.
perfect.
It'd be a good demo.
You have to
to
be
see.
careful of the naming of the form, I mean, the columns to match?
Zapier actually walks you through that. It asks you to you have to authenticate your Google account, right? So you don't want to use your personal Google account. You want to make sure you're using the client's Google account, right? Then once you authenticate that, you choose the specific Google Sheet that you want, and then it will actively pull all of the column names from the sheet that you've designated, and then you assign each field to each column.
Okay, I got it. I've done that so many times in my life using other things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's not
Right.
completely
It's
fluid.
just mapping it to the correct column, yeah.
Yeah, MailChimp does a similar thing to map the name to the name and the email, accordingly.
Exactly.
So to style a form, we have columns. Well, I don't have any columns, but let's create one real quick. Set this to 50%. So back to style, column widths, the space between columns. Actually, I need to go back to give it a little room here. Give it a little width. So now you can see the column gap changing here. Also row gap. The labels, put a gap here. Change the text color to the labels. Also change the typography to any of the Google fonts, not that one. HTML, I showed you the HTML field before. This allows you to add spacing above that field. We took it off for now, but change the spacing and the color and the typography for that as well. Same thing with fields. We change the color of the inside the fields. We can do so, like so. Typography. Pick something at random here. Change the size. A lot of options. Change the weight. Transform, uppercase, style. You get the idea. Background color. Sometimes you see a shaded background like so. Borders, if you want to use borders. Border radius. I think it has a slight radius now, but we can increase that. Like so. Actually make them pill shaped if you make it large enough. Like so. Buttons. Change the button color. Let's try a blue. And you can also change the, this is for the next and submit button. You can change the color and text for the previous button as well. Again, border radiuses, text padding. This is the message that pops up when I send a form. It's kind of hard to see what it looks like until you actually send the form. So I fill it out and hit send. It's this message here at the bottom is what you're changing. And if there's an error, you'll have an error message. Inline message color, success. Normally you want to see just the message itself saying everything was sent successfully. Let's go back to content.
Can you add graphics?
You could add graphics in the HTML component. Oh, you mean in the message?
Yes.
No, you'd have to use CSS.
I mean, on the form. Yeah.
You could use graphics in the form. You could use it as a background.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, we could select the form and go to style. Actually, it's under advanced, background,
Okay.
classic, grab an image,
Yeah.
like so.
Yeah.
You could do a
Thank
video.
you.
You could do a video too if you wanted, or you could do a gradient of some sort.
A lot of flexibility.
Got a question, Greg.
So there's an ugly form for you. So let's go back to content. And I want to add the step in there again, just to show one more thing. So step, we'll drag that up here somewhere. And again, I have trouble with the step sometimes. So I did an update and a refresh to see the steps. So we'll select the form again. We can see there's 2 steps, 1 and 2. If we had 3 steps, you'd have 1, a 2 in the middle, and a 3 at the end. I go back to styling. Under steps, you can choose the color of the steps. Let's try a blue or something over here, purple. So you can see that number 2 is changing. The divider, that line going across, you can change the width of it. You can change the gap of it. And you can also change these same steps, whether it's an active or it's complete. I think that's enough for steps. We'll pull that back out again. And again, it doesn't update right away. We'll do a save and refresh. I don't know if that's on their bug list or not. So here we go. I have the pop-up. Let's look at one more thing. Styling. Oh yeah, I need to go down here to the gear pop-up form. So I want to look at styling. So here's our overlay. Right now it's kind of dark, so you could change that to something else. Overlay. So yeah, you could use a gradient for an overlay. You can change, maybe you want a white instead. Change the opacity of it. Something that would fit your theme. You can also use an image as well. Not sure why you'd want that, but you could. And the close button up here in the top right. You can choose inside, which is inside this box. You can also choose outside, which goes way up in the top right corner outside the form, but you can't see it in this mode until it's live. I'll leave it at outside so we can see what that looks like. You can change the position of the X up and down or horizontally. So maybe you want on the other side of the form or at the bottom. We can change the size here at the bottom if you want a larger X.
Hey, Greg?
Yeah.
Could you put a negative vertical or horizontal position to move the box just outside, the X just outside the box?
Yeah, I was doing that earlier. You could. Vertical position. Let's do horizontal instead. So yeah.
Okay. So you could use that instead of the outside box to put it up in the corner.
You could, but when I notice when I do this, sometimes when it goes live, the X isn't exactly there. It'll move up and down a little bit. So it's not as precise as when it's actually on the form.
Okay.
Let's put that back to 0, or actually that back in the box here. That looks good. Right there. So yeah, you can change the hover as well. So we want the X to change to a different color when you hover over it. Make it yellow. As you can see. Let's go ahead and update this. I'm not going to add any conditions or triggers because I'm going to trigger this from a button. So we'll just do a save and close. So let's just do a, go back to our home page here. And let's have this button pull it up. So we're going to go edit with Elementor. Select the button. And so what you do instead of actually putting the link, I already have this set on pop-up. Normally this would be like so when you come in. But if you hit the dynamic tag, sorry, yeah. Dynamic tag, there's an option for pop-up. There it is. And hit the gear icon. We want to open a pop-up. What we call that one, form. There's our form template pop-up. And we'll go ahead and update. And exit out to the live site. Now when we click it, our form comes in. And our X is at the top outside the box where it should be. And it goes away. Let's try one more thing. I'm going to create another pop-up. It's going to pop up at the bottom of the page, so add new pop-up. Call it notice. Notice. Create pop-up. And a lot of websites now have the privacy policy where, you know, we accept cookies, that sort of thing. I'm going to use that one for this. So we'll do a preview. Doesn't say that message, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and pretend it does and insert it. And I'm going to add a button to it. So when this, what's going to happen is we're going to have this pop up from the bottom. And we're going to do that on the home page. So we'll select singular, front page, the trigger. We'll do a, just do a 4-second one. Save and close. So what's going to happen is we go to here and we refresh. We wait our 4 seconds. And it pops up. And yeah, we got it. What I'm going to do now is add another button here. Put it here. We'll give her this guy. Make this column a little larger. Let's change this to contact. And again, dynamic tags. We're going to do a pop-up. Click the wrench, open pop-up. Do the form. Update that. And now if we go back to the home page and do a refresh, wait our 3 seconds. Pops up. Want to contact, hit that, opens our other pop-up. So we have a pop-up inside a pop-up. It's a multi-step. So form was sent successfully. Problem is it's still on there until I get this X at the top. So we want the form to go away by itself. So let's go back to the dashboard. Go back to pop-ups. And grab our form pop-up, edit with Elementor. And we're going to select the form. And we're going to add a new action. This is going to be a pop-up action. The action is going to be to close the form. So when this is submitted, it's going to do all these actions. One of them is to close the form. Let's try that again. We'll do a refresh. This pops up. Contact. Now when I fill in the information and submit, the form goes away on its own. Any questions? Okay.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Greg. In terms of columns, is there a way to make 2 columns but fill the left first and then the right, instead of going left, right from top to bottom? Let's say you have a column, one column for billing address and another column for shipping address, and you want to fill.
I see what you mean. It's a good question.
I've never been able to do that. To be able to put, let's say, address, city.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You go down and fill out this side, and you go down and do the other side.
Right. That I have not been able to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. I'll look into that. Let you know next meeting. That 2 column. Okay, I'm going to look at something we did last month a little bit.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Greg. So I did a pop-up from the Elementor templates, but then how did you get it into the styler? So do I save this template and then I bring it in through this?
So
that's where I got lost.
Let's step along. So you did pop-ups?
Pop-ups, yeah.
You did a new one.
Right.
We'll do test.
Oh, and I give it a name. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, give it a name.
I think that's, yeah, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Right, and then I bring it into the page I want to use it on.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And then style it from that page.
Well, we'll create a new public call test. We'll use one of theirs.
Right.
I'll use that one I used earlier. Where to go? This one?
Yeah.
Then you could make any changes you want to it here. Then you want to, you have a button, or how does it pop up? What's your trigger?
It's a send button. But I guess it didn't come up with that big, like my left sidebar. I don't see.
Don't forget to go to the
all-
gear at the bottom settings. That's where your pop-up settings are going to be.
Oh, at the bottom?
The bottom left, the little gear.
Yeah, settings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Easy to overlook.
That's what I did.
That-
Yeah, that's what I was missing.
those are
Thank
all-
you. Okay, no, I'm fine now. That's just what I was missing.
Okay. So those that were here last month, we talked about custom post types and advanced custom fields. And we did a, that's not what I want. We created custom post types for restaurants. And we created a couple custom fields for the restaurants, so it displays like this. So what I'd like to do now is add another custom field to this restaurant, which will be the email field of the restaurant itself. So we can put a form here, and when someone fills out that form, it'll go to the restaurant instead of to us or someone else. So let me go back to the dashboard. We don't need that. And we'll go to custom fields, field group. We had a restaurant group where we had an address field, a phone field, and a description, which you can see here. We're using the main image. I don't have the address on there, description. So let's add another one for email. And it's going to be an email type field. And I think we can leave all these as they are. Do an update. Now we'll go to templates. And we're going to look at the single template for restaurants down here. It's the one that says single on it. Hit it with Elementor. So here's our single template for restaurants. Now let's add a, we already have a section there. Let's drag a form in there. We'll just put it here. So when this gets filled out, we want it to go to the restaurant. So what we can do is add another item. This is going to be a hidden field. So we're going to use it to send the email. And we'll call it email. Go to advanced. This is a dynamic field, so we're going to hit the little dynamic icon here. We're going to go to advanced custom fields. We did this last month with the other fields. And click the wrench icon. And select the email field we just added. And then when we go down to the email section here, actually, let me go back up. Form fields, email. We want to go to advanced and we want to grab, let's call it, we'll give it an ID of email, which changes the shortcut, makes it a little more readable. Copy the shortcut, go down to email, and now the message is going to go to the email field that's entered. So if I go back in here to the dashboard, Under restaurants, choose French Docks. Put in an email address. Update that. So we have that email here, an update. Go back to the previous site. So if we go to restaurants, choose French Docks, and fill this out and submit it. It'll go to the email attached to this restaurant.
Wow.
Any questions?
I just like, how did you figure that one out?